Welcome to another episode of One-on-One with Mitch Lafon. I am your host, Mitch Lafon. Of course, brought to you by Heavy Montreal, taking place August 7th, 8th, and 9th at Parc Jean Drapeau, beautiful downtown Montreal. Slipknot, Faith No More, Korn, Bullet for My Valentine, Gojira, Warrant Dawkins, Lita Ford, Rocket from the Crypt, Asking Alexandria, Lamb of God, Iggy Pop, and many, many more. My guests this week are the one, the only George Thorogood, a classic, and of course Mark Slaughter from Slaughter. He has got a new solo album called Reflections in a Rearview Mirror, and to discuss all of this, former Guns N' Roses manager Doug Goldstein. Good day, Doug.
Hey, Mitch. Thanks for having me, buddy.
Yeah, thanks for having you back. I guess we
Yes,
should
sir.
say, yeah.
Yes, sir. Enjoyed it. I couldn't stay away.
Yeah, I enjoyed our initial chat, but one thing that we didn't talk about was when Guns N' Roses opened for the Rolling Stones, and in my interview with George Thorogood, we talk about a time when he opened for the Rolling Stones.
Oh my God, Mitch! That was when I actually came out. I was a college student in Flagstaff, Arizona, and got a call from the LA-based company that we all did security for, and they said, "Load up the troops, bring as many people as you can." And somehow, I used to always finagle my way into the pit,
right?
Whether I was supervising the pit or not. But I believe that was like 80, 81, Mitch. You'd probably know. You're the guy that does all the research.
As far as I remember, it was 1981, and I think it was the LA Coliseum, right?
It was indeed. Yeah. And I had listened to George Thorogood for years and couldn't wait to see him. And wow, did he not disappoint? To me, honestly, he stole those shows. Certainly the purists will say that the Rolling Stones, couldn't be outshadowed in that type of atmosphere. But I swear, man, I mean, one bourbon, one scotch, and one beer, and I was rocking.
Yeah. What a classic. What a classic artist.
Oh, my God. Yeah. And that the thing that nobody remembers about 1981 show is the opener was a guy that people may or may not have heard of, Prince. And he
heard of him.
Yeah, you have.
No, never have. Who is
never
it?
have. That's right. Yeah. He was booed off the stage. I mean, they threw stuff at him. They just weren't ready for that kind of eclectic behavior, I guess.
Yeah, especially back then, before Purple Rain and When Doves Cry, the stuff he was doing pre that, which would have been in 80, 81, was really sort of off the beaten path. It wasn't really funky. It wasn't really poppy. It was just Prince doing whatever Prince does. Now, did you ever work with George more than that? Did you tour with him? Did you ever advise him? Or did you become friends with him?
No, I always wanted to meet the guy. I never had the opportunity to do so. But after graduating college, kind of between tours, I wrote to, pretty much everybody that I could find an address on. And I found his tour manager. And oddly enough, he was the only guy in the music industry that responded to me. Wow. So it just further kind of gave credence to my love and affinity for George.
Yeah, what is his career now? I think he started in the early 70s or something.
Yeah.
So incredible career. And the songs, like you said, one bourbon, one scotch, one beer, Bad to the Bone. Listen, they're
Moving on
icons.
Over. I mean, Moving On Over is just classic.
Total iconic songs. Been in tons of movies. But the reason I spoke to him is that he is going on tour with Brian Setzer, another guy from back in that early 80s scene with the Rockettes. Was it what they call the Rockettes or the Rockettes? Rockettes, right?
Right. Yeah. No, the Stray Cats.
The Stray Cats.
Yeah.
Oh in fact, see, I've gotten old. I'm forgetting details.
One of the sweetest people I've ever met in my life. We dated for a little while, and unfortunately, I moved to Hawaii. Well, not unfortunately, but I moved to Hawaii to be with my kids. But his ex-wife, Christine, she's an author, lives in Nashville, and purportedly, her and Brian get along tremendously, even to the day, which I have a lot of respect for. Wish I could say the same about my marriages.
Yeah. Well, mine's doing so far so good. 12 years, 2 kids, everybody's happy.
Good for you, buddy.
We're hanging tough.
There you go.
But George Thorogood and Brian Setzer together on the same stage. The tour starts May 27th in Red Bank, New Jersey, and runs all the way down till we get to Saratoga, California. Stray Cats and George Thorogood. That really was sort of the staple of early MTV, right?
Totally. Yeah, absolutely.
We're going to rock this town, and Bad to the Bone. A lot of airplay for those two.
No, absolutely. Yeah, I'll be at that show. I mean, I don't know where yet, but there's no way I'll miss it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, let's see. You got one in Lincoln, California, and one in Saratoga, California. So hopefully that's near you. But, George and Brian together. Why don't we take a listen to George Thorogood?
Nice.
Here's George.
Hey, Mitch.
Hey, George. Pleasure to speak with you.
It's a pleasure to talk to you. I've always been a big fan, man. I love that Devil with the Blue Dress On, the Latin Loopy-Loo.
Yeah.
All your hits, man. Sock It To Me.
Mitch Ryder?
You were some kind of badass back there in the 60s.
Oh, yeah. Well, hey, I was only born in 68, though. What can I tell you?
You were born in 68?
Yeah.
Where were you born?
Montreal.
Oh, man, don't tease me, man. That's my town.
That's a great town. That's where I met you last. You came here, I guess 2014, and I got to meet you.
Right.
I got to meet you with my daughter backstage, and that was a very good moment.
Montreal, was it the Metropolitan, the Metro?
Metropolis.
Metropolis, that's it.
Yeah, and it was a great gig. I mean, 2,300 people. It was loud. It was hot and sweaty. It was fantastic. The way rock and roll should be.
That's a great venue. That's a great town. That's one of our strong points in all over the world as far as the reception you get. And it's funny, an American band received that way, and not just Canadians, they're French Canadians.
Yeah.
Strange connection,
Yeah, Montreal has this connection with a lot of bands. Yes, Styx, for some reason they just glom on to these bands and artists, and they love them, and they love them forever. I mean, you could probably tour here till you're 85, and it will always be sold out.
I wouldn't doubt it. The city itself has a slight edge. Like when the Montreal Canadiens win the Stanley Cup, the town goes bananas.
Yes.
I mean, even the cops run for cover. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. And it's been way too long. It's been since '93 that we haven't won one. But this year we're good to go. And it's too bad.
Just the passion there in that city is just like you just feel the buzz in the streets.
Yeah, I agree. It's a wonderful place. It's sort of like Paris meets New York. So
exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely, totally. It's and they shot one of my favorite movies there, The Score, with Robert De Niro.
Yeah,
Marlon Brando.
A lot of movies shot up here, and if you want to eat, it's a great town to eat. People always make New York is a great town to eat and stuff. Now, try Montreal. It is fantastic.
We do.
Yeah.
We have in our contracts that if we go play there, we insist on a night off there as well.
Yeah. See, you're a wise man.
Yeah, we played the Spectrum too many times.
Yes.
Before that went by the wayside, and did the Bourbon Street thing. It's outside the city.
Yeah, that one is closed too now.
Just don't close the Metropolis, okay? It's all we got left.
It's unfortunate because the Spectrum was torn down and they were going to build a brand new Spectrum. And then I guess city politics or something got involved and the whole thing just fell through. But the Metropolis is a great venue. It truly is a great venue.
I know. The vibe there is, the audience is louder than we are.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And the acoustics, you can be on the top floor, on the bottom floor, left, right, and the shows always sound like $1 million. And
it always hits you. Yeah. And you got that Groovy Jazz Festival you do too.
Yeah, which you've played as well.
Yes. And I play no jazz. How do you like that? They had us anyway.
I know, and they should have you. They should obviously have you back. Shall we talk about the Brian Setzer, George Thorogood co-headlining tour? And why is that not coming to Montreal, by the way?
Oh, you got me. Mitch got me in trouble, huh? What's to know all about Brian Setzer and the tour, and why is it not coming to Montreal, by the way?
No, but it's...
Oh, man, now you got me upset.
No need to make you upset, but it's a great package, and it just, you fit so well together, I think. I think you both deliver the two sides of rock. I mean, you're more in the blues, and he's more in the rockabilly. It's a great evening.
Well, we've done it before. In '88, we did a run then.
Yeah.
And every time I'd run into Brian, I'd see him every couple of years or so, and that'd be the first thing out of his mouth. When are we going to hook up? When are we going to hook up again? And last time I saw his Christmas show, I barely even said hello to him once again, and he said it. I went, okay, well, let's do it.
Now,
and
yeah, go ahead.
Here we are.
The run is somewhat limited. It's only about, 6 weeks? Not even, right? Like 3 weeks, 4 weeks?
4 weeks.
Is there going to be more at some point, or is this sort of a sort of rapid fire, get in and out kind of thing?
Anything that's a success, people will want to do it again. It'll be up to the promoters. If it works out, then people in the other parts of the world or things will probably want to try it,
Okay. I want to ask you about the 2120 South Michigan Avenue album that you did back in 2011. It's the last album that you've put out in terms of studio recordings. And you had your wife, Marla, and your daughter, Rio, doing background vocals on it. Just what was it like to actually have your daughter in the studio and participating in the making of one of your records?
Well, we needed them. They're better singers than I am.
Right.
So they gave the album some class.
That's right. Because I was reading a recent interview you did, and you said that you are dirt personified. I mean,
that's me.
Really?
Yeah.
But just back to the question about your daughter, is she looking for her own music career? Is it something that you were encouraged? Is it something just that as a dad you just go, wow.
No, she's still in the 11th. She's still in the 11th grade. She's not quite figured out which way she's going to go.
Right. But still, it's got to be a thrill to have her on there.
Well, yeah, I've performed with her on stage too. She's come on and played. She's a mean version of Linda Ronstadt's "I'm So Glad I'm Living in the USA."
Yeah.
Which she does a great version of, and that's always a gas. When we do those kind of things together, it's more just we're just doing it for fun.
Yeah, of course.
If she decides to move in that direction, it's going to be her decision, and she's got time for that kind of thing to sort that out.
If she sorts it out, though, what
kind of... Personally, I'd like to see Michelle Pfeiffer retire and have her take her place. That's the way I'd like to see her go.
Right, as an actress, yeah. Because as a new artist, what kind of advice would you give? I mean, you had the benefit of MTV, you had the benefit of radio, both AM and FM. What does a new artist do these days?
Get a good manager.
Yeah, but can you still really break? I mean, is there an infrastructure for it?
If you got a good manager, yes.
Yeah, okay. Fair enough. Now we're talking tours. There's a famous tour that you were on back in 1981. Jay Giles Band, Prince, George Thorogood, opening for the Rolling Stones. What kind of experience was that? And what did you learn from it?
Fast.
Yeah, well, yeah, you didn't. It wasn't that long, but what was it like opening for the Stones? Obviously, they must have been an influence on you. They do sort of that blues rock as well.
Yeah, well, that was the idea. They weren't so much. Usually, when the Rolling Stones would tour, like any other big band, they want to get the hot rock act or someone that's
right.
Or an established legendary act that they want to fill the arena.
Yep.
That's generally how it worked. I didn't know how it worked in those days. And I was still relating 1981 to like 1968, 1967 when Bill Graham put acts on that were all harmonious. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like Buddy Guy opening for B.B. King or, Bo Diddley playing with Quicksilver Messenger Service, something like that, regardless of what their status was in the rock industry. And I thought, well, who's more perfect act than me to open Rolling Stones? I mean, I play the guitar like Keith Richards. I wiggle around like Mick Jagger, and my hair looks like Brian Jones. I'm ready, And I do nothing but Bo Diddley and Chuck Berry, like they used to do.
Right.
And I thought it was a perfect fit, and it was. But what Graham was interested in more than anything was, can you handle the audience? Can you handle 80,000 people? That was the trick. That didn't faze me at all. Remember, with me, it's like, it's just more people to turn on. It's just more people at the party, and he was more concerned of, and it was so went from 35 minutes to 40 minutes to 50 minutes, and then we finally got up to an hour, and then finally Graham didn't have any acts. It was just us and the Stones. And figured that's all they needed. It was economically worked out better for everybody too. Because I ain't cheap, but I can be had.
Right. And what kind of impact did it have on your career? Because 81, you were still in the in the early stages of the career. Did you notice anything the year after? Were your albums selling more?
Not really.
No.
What it did do it landed us a deal with a major record label.
Which one? EMI was it back then?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And so that's obviously important. Looking back on 40 years, if you could do it all over again, would you want to be George Thorogood, the rock star, or George Thorogood, the baseball player?
If you had a room full of women that were the ages between 30
right.
and 60,
mm-hmm.
about 40 women like that, right?
Right.
Okay. And you bring in an actor, an athlete, a writer, a rock star. Who are the women going to go talk to?
First up, probably the rock stars.
Small question about that.
Right?
Right. Always. Name me another occupation where someone like Mick Jagger could be a sex symbol.
Or Gene Simmons.
What?
Or Gene Simmons of Kiss.
Exactly.
Can you imagine?
Point exactly. There you go.
But you were a prospect. You were a second baseman. You're a Mets fan, which obviously, being in Montreal, we don't understand. Did you ever look back and think, I could have played for 5 years and then still done this rock thing?
That didn't dawn on me till later. At the days when I selected to try to go into music, the lines were crossed between big league sports in general, and music, particularly rock music. You got to understand, Mitch, I come from a way different generation than you do.
Right.
Rock baseball players would be quite dead listening to rock music or wear their hair long or anything like that.
Right.
And kids that wore their hair long that were crazy about Led Zeppelin or Jeff Beck or Jimi Hendrix, they'd never go to a football game or a baseball game. So the lines were drawn back then. It wasn't you were on one side. You're on one side of the world or the other.
Right.
Not like now. If I thought, well, you could have always just played baseball at any level in the summer, and I did that for a while. And then when the winter came, just don't get a haircut and go play in a club somewhere. I mean, Denny McClain did that. He played Oregon and Las Vegas. When he wasn't working with the Detroit Tigers. So, but when I was doing it, I was gung ho on making career of it. When you do that, Mitch, you start out and you have to do it all the time. You just can't lay it down and say, well, I'm going to stop now because I'm a baseball player.
Right.
You have to stick with it all the time, 24 hours a day, 365 days of the year, until you become successful. And that could take years to do that. It did with me. So you have to, at that time, you had to decide one way or another which way we're going to go. Sounds like I can't play baseball very good. It's not like I can just say, oh, yeah, sure, I'll just go try out for the Yankees. They'll sign me up. I'll be the next Bucky Dent. That just doesn't
work.
Once I stepped into the batter's box and saw a major league curveball, next thing in my hands was a guitar.
Yeah. Let me ask you about the early start of your career back in the early 70s. I mean, the scene was filled with extravagance in terms of imagery. Alice Cooper, Kiss, Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin. The music was getting harder, darker. Then we moved into disco. And you stuck to the blues rock. Did you ever think, wow, what am I doing here? I'm out of the scene. I'm out of the loop. Or you just have this firm belief that, no, this is what I do, and just keep moving forward?
Mitch, you're completely overestimating me. I mean, you don't sit there and say, "Oh, gee,
Okay.
I can't. I'm not getting anywhere playing this type of music." It's like saying, "Well, I'm John Wayne. I'm not getting anywhere with this westerns. I'm going to switch over to Shakespeare." I mean, you do what you can do. You don't. Nobody's that versatile except for maybe Paul McCartney that can say, "Well, this is the flavor of the month. I'm going to do that," or "This is what's happening now. I'm going to do that." And nobody's that good. You just keep plugging away at what you are good at. If you do have an expertise, no matter how mediocre that expertise might be, or whatever financial rewards you get, that's the luck of the draw. I can't sing that good, and when I play the guitar, it's a mean, dirty sound coming out of the guitar with a heavy up-tempo beat, and that's just me. That's just the way I play. And I said there must be somebody out there who'll buy what I do. You don't change what you do because nobody's buying it.
Right.
You keep doing it until you get so good at it, then people start buying it.
Yeah, I guess the question was more: were you ever tempted to get into the whole imagery thing, or did a record companies come to you and say, "Listen, Alice Cooper has a hit with I'm 18. Now we need you to do something more like that"? Were there any?
No, they never did. No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
EMI Capital signed me to do what it is I do and more.
Okay.
They wanted George to be more of what he already was. And as far as the imagery goes, we had a tremendous live act. That was imagery enough. You know, a lot of people who don't flash it. Elvis Presley could go out there in a T-shirt and tear the place apart. Am I wrong?
No, you absolutely could. But it was a different time in the 50s. I mean,
it doesn't matter. It
right.
doesn't matter. He was even thought to be very flashy with his clothes and everything.
And his hips.
But if someone's got a persona on stage and a wild act up there, you don't need the makeup or the flashing bells and all that kind of stuff. You don't need any of that. And besides, yeah, I would like to have got into that, but I didn't have any money, Mitch. I couldn't afford any snakeskin shoes. I had to wear hush puppies. But people say, "Oh, look at this guy. He carries his own anthem. He wears corduroy pants and a cheap sports coat. He's really down." Like, I'm not down. I'm poor.
It would have been a whole different stage presentation.
Yeah, so if I had the cash, now I look a little better on stage. We got a crew. I got better equipment.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah, I saw people doing what they were doing. If people come and say, "Hey, why don't you do that?" I go, "Okay, front me $50,000 and I'll do it."
So I guess you didn't have a big backer. I mean, you look at Kiss, they had Bill O'Coin and Aerosmith had their guy. You didn't have a guy behind you saying, "All right, here." Okay. Oh,
no, you just said about somebody breaking into the business. What should they do? I said, get a manager.
Right.
That's how they got. We didn't have any of that. We just had the three of us. We didn't have anything. And we just kept plugging away, hoping we get a break here or there. If we could get a record out and stop doing auditions and maybe get a job opening for Taj Mahal or something, we'd have it made. And that was our, plan. And the path just kind of we got off the beaten path when the radio started playing the record. That's when we said things got 10 times bigger than we realized, because we never expected to be played on radio.
Right.
And that's when we had to start getting organized and people caught on to what we were doing. We were playing play clubs, seated 100 people. And after a record came out, there'd be 500, 600, 700 people in the outside the door trying to get in. That's what the record did. It more than tripled our popularity, and we weren't ready for that. We prepared for failure, not success.
Right, but 40 years later, you're still going at it. So great.
Well,
success.
Yeah. I mean, bourbon, scotch, and beer and Bath of Bone have not gone out of favor. People still like those songs.
Yeah, it's amazing what keeps a song timeless. I was just talking to the guys from the band Europe and their song "The Final Countdown," and they said, "Man, we will never stop playing that song because it made us who we are today. It allows us to still do this." And I guess that's sort of the same for you with "Bad to the Bone," I should say, because that's sort of what keeps you going, right? That song that people just want to hear over and over again.
Well, that's what you do. I mean, I'll bet tonight Tony Bennett's not going to go out on the stage and say, you know, I'm not going to play that song I Left My Heart in San Francisco. I think I'll leave that one out of the show tonight. Yeah. No, those are the songs that break you. That's why you do them. Oh. You do them so you can hang your star on it and be around for a while. That's what people look for, is a tune. When was the last time you saw Tom Jones and he didn't do It's Not Unusual or What's New Pussycat?
You know what? It hasn't happened in like 35 years that he hasn't done those.
No, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen either.
Yeah, it's kind of like Kiss with Rock and Roll All Night. You know that it's going to be in every set until the day they retire, right?
Exactly. Absolutely. That's why people come to see him. That's why they put it in the set.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I want to ask you a little bit about loyalty. Jeff and Billy have been with you since the early 70s or mid-70s. You know, the marquee says George Thorogood and the Destroyers, but it says George Thorogood. But you've stuck with them. You haven't been like an Alice Cooper or David Coverdale who's changed the guys every 5 years. You've stuck with them. Why has that been important?
So what's your question?
Well, the question is about loyalty. Why not just retool the band every 5 years and get a new sound and a new vibe and a drummer with some new energy? You know, why have you stuck it with them? Because I think it's absolutely respectable and it's rare. You know, people change their parts out all the time because they can get more money. They don't have to divide it up as much. They can, but you've stuck it out with those guys.
I make enough money.
Right. What do they bring to the band?
What?
What do they bring to the band, to your sound? I mean, you've been with them.
Well, I got, you know, if it's not broke, don't fix it. I mean, did you know that Sonny Ferguson played with B.B. King from day one until he passed away? You know, I think he passed away anyway. And Fats Domino had the same band until his guitarist passed away. They were together. You know, a lot of the James Brown unit were 2 or 3 of them, especially if it's the backbone of what you do, your rhythm section, drummer or bass player. They're the ones that usually you want to make sure they're there because they lay down the foundation of what you're about. As far as loyalty goes, loyalty is based on finance, Mitch.
Yep. Well, that's it. And
yeah, I mean, they could get paid more money playing with somebody else. More power to them, you know.
But the same goes.
What I can afford.
The same goes for you. You could also have just brought in a new kid who's 18 years old and paid him, you know, $250.
Oh, you think it's that easy? You think it's that easy, do you? You think it's just some 18-year-old kid can just walk in here and be able to do what I've been doing for 50 years? Come on.
You got a point.
It's not that simple, you know. And, you know, unless the kid is some musical genius, can handle all styles of music. And then you got to be able to handle my style of it, not just being able to play blues. Can you follow what Thorogood does out there on stage?
Right.
It's a little more complicated than that. You know, you can't. We've had other people come. Guitarists have come and gone. Sax players have come and gone. And they hear the records, and then they see me perform and say, oh, I can do this, is easy. And then they walk in, and then they're totally lost and just can't find the groove. So just paying something less money that you think they can fill in, that doesn't solve anything.
Right.
Like how long, do you realize McCartney's unit that he's played with now have been together longer than the Beatles were originally?
Yes.
You know that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. It's not just being able because he pays them less than he would pay Ringo Starr. No, those guys are geniuses. They're fantastic musicians. There's those 2 guitar players. That's why he's kept them. And then made a damn good living playing with him. You know, they would have been gone in an eyelash. Didn't have anything to do with the money with Paul. If they couldn't cut it and make the sound work, they'd have been gone because there'd been 100 other guys standing in line wanting to do it. And so same with any band. I said, yeah, you can get someone that pay less, you get less.
Yeah, it's very true. We spoke about the album from 2011 before. Is there a new album coming down the road, or is that sort of, there's no point?
Yeah, there's one coming out, I think, this spring or this summer that the Rounders going to put out the original first album without a bass because we originally cut it without a bass. So it's George Thorogood and the Destroyers bassless.
That'll be interesting. All the bass players out there can play along to it. That'll be fun. That'll be fun. But is there still a reason to write new music at this point? Because you obviously can go out there and play the hits and fill up the Metropolis and any venue. Do you still have that creative need to say, "Hey, I have a new George Thorogood song," or is that like, eh?
No, I don't. I worked for a good 25 years to get to this spot.
Right.
You know, to say, well, there's only a limited amount of time on the stage anyway, Mitch, and I only have a limited amount of time of energy to be able to do what it is I do. You know, I was talking to Jim Ladd, who does radio out there in California, and I say, what happens when somebody goes to the Mike the Rock show and the guy says, here's something off the new album, and Jim said, The Kiss of Death.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then another guy told me, he said, whenever someone says, this is something off the new album, something new, he said, they call them bathroom songs. Everybody gets up and goes to the bathroom or the bar.
You're absolutely right.
But the word book now is a classic rock act. That's we're on classic rock radio. Am I wrong?
Nope, not at all. And you're very right. You know, whenever
that's what the promoters book us as, so that's what we're going to do.
Yep. And you're very right. I've been to shows, and I here's a new song, and I go, oh, good, I need to pee. Whew. And I run out.
Exactly. And you've heard the other ones, the classics, songs like Proud Mary and Bad Moon Rising, or Let It Be, or Jumpin' Jack Flash. So when something new comes on, you've heard the other ones so many times, nothing can match up to it.
No. Yeah, and of course you don't relate to it because you don't have the 20 years or 30 years of memories and
right. Exactly.
You're absolutely right, George. This is an absolute pleasure. I always enjoy talking to you, and hopefully you will get back up to Montreal, either at the Metropolis or at the Jazz Fest or somewhere.
Maybe you can put in a good word for us.
Oh, absolutely. I will.
Thank you.
Thank you, George. It's been great. Thank you.
Rock and roll never sleeps; it just passes out.
That's right. There you have it, folks. My interview with the one, the only George Thorogood. Definitely an American classic. And going out with Brian Setzer is going to be a night of hit after hit after hit. Well, let's talk about Mark Slaughter now. He's got a new solo album called Reflections in a Rearview Mirror. But first, let me remind you that this episode of One on One with Mitch Lafon is brought to you by the Heavy Montreal Festival, taking place August 7th, 8th and 9th at Parc Jean Drapeau. And you know what? I've mentioned Slipknot, I've mentioned Faith No More. Let's mention some of the other bands on the bill. Glassjaw, Fozzy, Marky Ramone, Testament, Alex on Fire, NoFX, Gojira. And yes, because I'm a hair metal guy, I have to again mention Lita Ford, Dokken,
Love
and
Lita. Love
Ward.
Don.
I love Don. You know,
Don asked me to manage him, Mitch.
Yeah,
Don. Yeah, I love that. He was one of those South Bay guys, right? I lived in the South Bay. And
he's out in Hermosa Beach, I think.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, Rat guys came from there. A couple of the Motley guys, the Dokken guys, certainly Great White. I actually lived with Jack Russell for a while. Yeah.
You know, speaking of that, you know, before Guns got big and then before you got involved, you were around the LA scene. You must have run into Warrant a few times. And
oh, yeah. In fact, Janie, I love Janie. He was a sweetheart of a guy. He didn't tell me because he thought that I'd be bummed. He had actually dated the gal that I was seeing at the time. Had he known that I referred to her as my psycho, her name was Cindy. And literally we broke up when the marshal showed up at my door to take her away for writing $60,000 in bad checks. But yeah, I met Janie. I think it was the Cat House gig that we played, kind of returning back to LA. And, you know, after becoming this successful band, and Janie was literally passing out flyers, and I met him then. And later we ran into each other at Alpine Valley on Use Your Illusion. And he played me the Bobby Brown video. She's got cherry pie, right? And he said, Doug, we want you to manage us. And I passed. I said, look, you guys are going to sell between 3 to 5 million albums, but I just don't get the music. So I loved Janie, but I wasn't a big fan of what the band was doing.
Now let's get back to it to Mark Slaughter, of course, the band Slaughter. You know, Dana Strum back in those days, early 80s, was sort of a talent scout. He sort of helped find Randy Rhoads, and he found a bunch. Did you run into Dana at all? Because he was sort of a behind-the-scenes guy.
Yeah, very much. No, I knew who Dana was, but I didn't really have a relationship there.
Okay.
I was my kind of looking at guys like that was the Ted Templemans or the Ted Cohens.
Right.
those guys were guys that I really looked up to, kind of doing the same gig.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever run into their boss at the time, Vinnie Vincent?
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
Oh,
Vinny's a great guy. Absolutely. Yeah.
Great in quotes, right? He's a
yeah,
guy.
right. Yeah. Yeah. As long as I didn't have to deal with him, I was fine.
Yeah, which is pretty much how I think most people feel. But let's get back to Mark. Mark talks about Reflections in a Rearview Mirror, new solo album. Of course, Slaughter on tour all summer. And when they pack up and head home, Dana heads out on the road with Vince Neil and Motley Crue.
Okay, great. Yeah.
Vince, not Vince, I should say Dana. I don't want to call him Vince's manager, but I guess he's sort of his personal assistant. He sort of makes sure he gets to the gigs. He makes sure that everything is the way it should be.
Very nice.
I mean, I guess he's doing what you were doing with Guns, except not as a manager. More, I guess.
It kind of sounds like a day-to-day guy.
Yeah, like a personal TM kind of thing. But Dana's great. I love Dana. I think he's fantastic.
Yeah. And I loved Mark. I mean, I've run into Mark a couple times, and he's just like this really, 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 really nice guy.
Yes, absolutely.
And obviously very talented. I mean, how could you not say that Mark Slaughter's not talented? I mean, he's an awesome talent.
Well, speaking of that, on this new album, Reflections in a Rearview Mirror, he does all the instruments and all the singing with the exception of drums. So everything you hear is Mark Slaughter.
Amazing. And I'll tell you, I'll send you a picture, Mitch. I actually had hair almost as good as his.
Well, that's hard to believe.
I know, right? Yeah. Check Facebook, Mitch.
Because the Vinnie Vincent Invasion guys, they had hair.
I know, right?
Yeah. So here, why don't we get into this? Here is Mark Slaughter talking about his new album, Reflections in a Rearview Mirror.
Right on. Mark.
We are talking with Mark Slaughter of the band Slaughter, and of course, doing your own solo stuff this time out. Reflections in a Rearview Mirror. We are going to start there, and then we're going to work to all the Vinnie Vincent stories. Is that correct? No?
We're going to do whatever you want to do, Mitch. You've known me a long time, so however you want to do it.
No, but let's start off with the album here, Reflections in a Rearview Mirror. Is that in itself, the title, sort of a symbolism of anything that this is a look back on your career, or is that not it?
I think it is kind of a reflection of what's going on in musical environment and where I came from, and I think that really what I'm doing with this whole thing is I was writing a collection of songs that started to take shape as a record,
right.
And in that I just it all is reflective. It's reflective of where I came from musically, and the packaging in the CD has a lot of that type of feel to it as well. Right. It's very retro. It's very like where I came from.
Yeah, that which is great. The last Slaughter album, I believe, came out in '99. Was it?
99, exactly.
Are you thinking of also doing more Slaughter music, or are you really going to focus on doing the Mark Slaughter stuff?
If we can get everybody in the same city and do it that way, and I know we could, obviously I had Mark Gooden play drums on this, on my record, and I'm in Nashville and he's in Las Vegas, but, you can work it out. It's just the point of everybody saying, okay, let's do this.
Right.
And, everybody's got other things going on that's taking up their time at this point, and again, nothing negative to the band. It's just that we really haven't got the logistics of when we can all do this, and I'm writing songs all the time, so here's the first round of them.
Now on this one, you did everything except the drums. You bass, guitars, and everything. Correct. When we did when you did that song Unholy on the Kiss tribute for me, you insisted on playing guitar because you wanted to also be known for more than just the voice. Is that something important to you, to get out there and show people these musical chops?
I think that I don't think it's like something that I'm like, oh, I'm a guitar player. It's just something that I enjoy doing.
Right.
It's something that I always, I played guitar growing up, and, when I joined up with Vinnie Vincent years ago, I literally went from a guitar teacher to putting it in the stand and becoming a singer.
Right.
Nothing wrong with that, but it's still something that I enjoy doing. So I think that, you know, I'm at home, I have my paints, and I have the things that I want to put the pictures out that I like, and, you know, I know the colors I want to use, and that's kind of what I did on this.
Yeah, you know, and it's a great album. It is a solid rock album, and, you know, if you had just taken the Mark part off it, you could have probably sold it as a Slaughter album. Was that just, is that just because that's the way you write? As a solo artist, did you not want to go explore some other avenues?
Well, I think that, you know, look, it's kind of like, you know, I'm sure that I'll explore a lot of other avenues in my career, but as my first shot out, I think I really just wanted to do something that you know, that's the way I write, that's the way I play, and I did want to have some familiar aspects to what I do.
Right.
You know, it's like I didn't want to do the Mark Slaughter Polka record, not saying that I'm going to be doing a polka record, but, you know, it's just, you do what you do, but you know, you can vary off,
right.
But I think that you still have to be what people expect you to be.
Yeah, no, I agree. I do agree, but you know, when you see a guy like Steven Tyler running off and doing a country album, or you see Paul Stanley running off and doing an album that was a little more pop, you go, oh, okay, they've got this other side. Now, you said you've been writing,
which again with Paul, you know, it's the same type of. I've actually used Paul as a great example to this. You know, he still fronts, you know, one of the biggest bands in the world, but he still enjoys putting out solo records because he's an artist.
right?
And I think that's really what I came up with on all this. Is like I'm not really, you know, how many am I going to sell, or what's it going to do, or how it's going to work. It's just really, here's my art. If you enjoy it, cool.
Yeah, and I think people really will enjoy it. Now, that said, you're still going out with Slaughter this summer. A lot of dates lined up in, you know, Utah, Connecticut, Toronto. Just a quick summer run, or anything longer coming up?
No, we just do fly dates for the most part. We haven't had a rolling tour for a long time. In fact, the last time we were on a rolling tour was with Rad across Canada, you know,
right.
Years ago. That's the last time I was actually on a tour bus. You know, because we just fly into the shows and fly home.
Okay. Is there any more
kind of the Iron Maiden side of it, except I'm doing it on Delta. You know?
That's right. Now,
and I don't have to fly plane.
Well, you know, you could be like some of the other '80s rockers where they have to drive their own bus these days, right? So you're definitely a step above that. Now, I know you're driving around right now. I think we can hear that. Are you actually currently looking for Vinnie anywhere in Tennessee?
Well, you know, I'm looking, but all I'm seeing is cows. So unless he's, you know, has a new skin on, I haven't seen him.
Can you just take me back? And I know that the VVI is a touchy subject, but can you just take me back to what it meant for you as a young guy getting into that band?
Oh, dude, it was awesome. Are you kidding?
Okay, it was '86.
Look, here's what I got. I get the call, and it's like, would you be interested in doing this?
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to be going out on tour with Alice Cooper in a month. And I'm sitting here looking at a schedule of guitar students. I had about 279 lessons that I taught each month.
Right.
So I was really busy, and I thought, you know, this sounds like a really cool thing. And I loved Alice Cooper. I grew up with Alice Cooper, and to be on what they called the comeback tour,
right.
It was great, man. I have nothing but great memories on that aspect.
So you got the call to go out with Alice Cooper.
I got the call to go out with Alice Cooper. It was you know, his comeback tour.
Right.
And it was an amazing thing for me because I grew up listening to Alice Cooper. I mean, it was such a, you know, wonderful opportunity. Look, I look back on that, and it was one of the coolest times in my life to be able to go out and tour with Alice and Vinnie. And then it was Iron Maiden, which is also one of my favorites.
Yeah, not a bad way to get your feet wet in the industry. If there's anything you could go back and change from those days, either to make it more successful or just even pull yourself out of it, what would you go back and change?
Interesting question. I don't, as far as changing it, you know, look, we did what we did. I think that I really don't have any apologies or remorse in any side of it. You know, Vinnie had a way he wanted to do things, and it was his band.
Right.
You know, ultimately on that side of it, you know, he wrote some great songs, and I was glad to be a part of it, and glad to you know, sing it, do the videos and every aspect. As far as changing anything, I really wouldn't change anything. I had a great time. It's some of the funniest stories and the crazy antics that ever happened in my life was during that process. And you know, I really don't have any negative things to say about it, except for, you know, we all move on and, you know, and do other things.
Yeah, and in fact, let's move on in this interview. A lot of our older rock stars, our lead singers, and I'm not going to name names, so I don't want to be sounding like I'm bashing anybody. You know, their voices have started to either falter or get a little less than what it was. As a singer, what do you do to preserve your vocals? Because you sang very high. Are you doing anything?
I've sung. Well, you know what? There's several aspects to my voice that I actually did have issues.
Right.
And it's not what people would think in issues. First, I had issues like in '92 during the Ozzy Osbourne tour, and that was just basically from being too social and not shutting up. Right. I mean, obviously Celine Dion, not to, you know, bring in the pop side of it, but she literally walks around with a pad and doesn't even speak when
right.
she's actually touring or doing shows. It's part of that, and it's hard for me to shut up because I'm an animated guy who does animation. I'm just, you know, really forward. But anyway, to fast forward in that, you know, as I get older, I kept saying my voice is dry, and I kept telling the voice doctors my voice is dry, and I drank water,
right.
did everything, and I just realized that at that point, that as my doctor said, you are dry. I don't have a lot of saliva, so I had to basically take some medicine that gave me more saliva, and hence my voice is better than it's been in years.
Is it a concern, though, or a worry as you get older? Because, you know, listen, as a football player, you get concerned about your knees. As a baseball player, you worry about your arm. You know what? It's not really a concern. Okay. I think really in my side of it with singing, I just really go for it. I've always been a belter. I've always been a guy who sings really loud. And in that aspect of singing, no, I think that it's just do what you do and go out there and enjoy what you're doing. I mean, with Slaughter, I've been singing all those songs a half step higher my whole career. Right.
Because none of us like the way our strings feel. We tuned down a whole step on the record because we thought that my voice would have been too abrasive up a full step.
Right.
And that's what we've done. So I've always sung those songs a half step higher my whole life.
Okay. Now, speaking of Slaughter dates and all that, will there be Mark Slaughter solo dates in support of Reflections in a Rearview Mirror?
I don't have anything planned, and okay. You know, like I said, you know, no different than Paul Stanley doing records. It's kind of, you know, there might be a club thing here, a club thing there, but for the most part, I'm really just focused on Slaughter. That's what I do. Okay. It's what I love. It's what I tour with, and you know, I'm just really trying to get some new music out there to stay focused on being an artist. Okay,
and since you're focused on Slaughter, the one mainstay has, of course, been Dana. What does Dana mean to you? I mean, he's the guy that's been there from the beginning, right? And
well, Dana is like a brother to me,
right.
And you know, there was a time with Vinnie Vincent that, you know, Vinnie sat me down in a cafe with this manager at the time, and he said, you know, I fired Dana, and where's your loyalty lie? And I said, I'd rather be in the gutter with Dana than with you.
Right.
So find a new singer, and good luck with that. And, you know, I think that there's, in that aspect, I think that we both felt like, hey, we're going to be in the gutter, but we'll pull ourselves out and write some songs and do what we do. And ultimately, you know, most people don't know each other as long as I've known Dana,
right,
as well as been in business with them. So, you know, it's a real positive thing. And again, you know, Dana's working with Vince Neil, doing a lot of the, you know, Motley things with that.
Yep.
And you know, there's no animosity, there's no weirdness. He does shows with Vince. We're friends, and it's a good thing.
Yeah, it really does seem to be a great relationship. Just to follow up on what you said, though, why did you choose Dana? I mean, here you are, a young singer. You're in a you were in a band that was on a major label. You know, Dana could have obviously just gone off and passed away in a gutter. Why did you choose him? What was it about Dana you said, no, I'm gonna hitch my wagon to this horse?
Well, I think that we both have the same influences.
Okay.
The other side of it is we're driven the same way. You know, ultimately with Dana, he has the same musical influences I did, and I also know that you know, in the studio we worked together. I knew we worked well together.
Okay.
And there was a lot of recording and a lot of things that we did that was just Dana and I. It wasn't anybody else in the room. So if we did it once, we can do it many times forward.
Okay.
And you know, again, when you rub elbows with somebody on a tour bus, you get to know them. If you like them or if you want to do business with them or not.
Yeah, fair enough. But by then, though, had you already started working on like Slaughter demos or, you know, another band demos, and was that already sort of like you and Dana were already, hey, let's do something, or was that after?
Well, Dana and I, you know, when it was all kind of unfolding, we were talking about it. There was a band that had approached Dana as we were on the road. It was a band called White Heat, and they had money investors, and they were looking to do a record, and they asked Dana if, you know, he'd produce, and Dana's like, you and I can do this together. This could be great for us, and we'll do this before Slaughter, or, you know, obviously didn't even have a name before we do our band.
Right.
And it'll give us some chops and figure out how we're going to do it and who's going to be on board. And that band was Firehouse. And that's kind of what we were doing. And then they went on to go do their stuff when we were mid-tour. And that's kind of how it all fell together.
And listen, and it worked out. Here we are in 2015. You're still doing shows. You're still getting the fans out there. People are still excited. You did mention that you kept writing. Since you're not going to be doing a solo tour, therefore the whole album cycle thing is a little different. Does that mean we can expect new music and a new album in early 2016? Do you have a sort of a? Okay.
Well, I've got some ideas and I've got some things going. So, you know, I'll probably hard focus on that, you know, probably towards the end of this year, and start putting some music out one way or another, you know, whether it's straight to, you know, again, I'm on my own label and I do my own stuff, and, you know, we'll see how it goes. I have a Europe deal and I have a Japanese deal with Escape in Europe, and with Rubicon in Japan. And then in the States and Canada, I'm on my own thing. I'm just going to do it through my website, and you know, I'm just not worried about it. It's not like I'm like, okay, I've got to move all these things in these boxes. It's like, I'll just make CDs, and if there's a demand, I'll get them out there, and that's how I'm going to do it.
That's wonderful. And of course, the website is markslaughter.com. You know, I recommend people pick up the album. I've had a chance to listen to it a bunch of times, and I think it's just a good rock and roll album.
Well, I appreciate it. It was just, you know, I just think it's an honest record. There's no, there wasn't something that I was like, okay, I'm going to write a song like this. I think it all has a lot of depth to the lyrics on it, and you know, and again, I enjoyed playing all the music on it.
There you go. Thank you, Mark. Always a pleasure.
Same here, buddy.
And let's do it again soon, and hopefully I can get out to that Toronto show in June. Always great to see Slaughter, and band just puts on a killer live show.
Let me know.
Yeah.
Let me know. Yeah, that should be a good show too. That should be really good.
Yeah, it's a good room. It's I think it's at the Phoenix, and that's a very good room. So no,
Yeah,
it's a must happen. But Reflections in a Rearview Mirror, markslaughter.com. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Mitch.
Bye-bye now. There you have it, folks. My interview with Mark Slaughter. Reflections in a Rearview Mirror is the new CD. And, of course, this episode of One-on-One with Mitch Lafon brought to you by the Heavy Montreal Festival featuring Slipknot, Korn, Lita Ford, Warrant Dawkins. I'm always going to mention those because those are my bands. And of course, hey, you know, Faith No More. They played Montreal years and years ago. Right, Doug?
Yeah, we should have made their set a little longer.
Yeah, they could have added another 6 or 7 songs.
Yes, sir.
Without getting into the whole history of that, though, did you have a chance to meet them, or were you a fan of theirs?
No, you know what? They kind of. It was interesting. We had them out with us for quite some time, and a couple of the guys in the band actually made some disparaging remarks about Axl. Yeah, you know, I mean, look, I love that that Kid Rock has come out and said the kind things that he has about my former client, because I think he's more spot on. Right. You know, people make perceptions or judgments having never met him, which is really screwed. But
right.
Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. So
yeah. Without getting into it just occurred to me as I was saying, I was like, hey, wait a minute. Mm-hmm. They played Montreal on a bill with right. Metallica, but it's going to be interesting because unless I'm mistaken, and it does happen, my wife tells me it happens. I think this is their first show back.
No, really?
Well, you know, when you think about it, they pretty much broke up afterwards.
True. Yeah.
Well, you know what? I'll check that and let fans know on another episode. But I do think
and I don't want to jump into anybody's thunder, Mitch, but I do want to say that I did receive a really nice letter from Axl asking me to butt out, and he appreciated my time with them, and I, out of respect for him and love for him, have agreed to do that. So, and I've told you that off the record, Mitch, and I really appreciate you not kind of, you know, digging up any of that stuff, and you know, I'll be back to talk about other bands anytime you want.
Well, speaking of other bands, Heavy Montreal, as we've said, is August 7th, 8th, and 9th at Parc Jean Drapeau, and they've got all these great heavy bands. Are you working with any heavy bands that you think maybe for 2016 Heavy Montreal should consider?
Yeah, absolutely. I've got a couple ones that are perfect for this. One band is a 3-piece out of Brazil called Cavina, Cavina. And they're like monsters, very kind of Sepultura, right? So they fit absolutely perfect for this. And then I'm also working with a group of guys, Mike Orlando from Adrenaline Mob,
right?
And there's guys from Breaking Benjamin. And anyway, they're kind of they didn't do another Adrenaline Mob or Breaking Benjamin record, but it's kind of more album oriented,
right?
But I think, just because of Orlando's playing, it would be phenomenal for this.
Right.
And then there's one that I really wanted to mention, Mitch, is this guy, Muck Sticky, who's just like, he's got 43 videos on YouTube, all done by himself. He graduated high school at age 12.
Wow.
He's a Mensa guy, super genius. Unfortunately, he was supposed to tour with Afro Man, and we know what ended up there.
Yep.
But I'll tell you, man, I really hope that people take a peek at this guy, Muck Sticky, because he's hilarious and just a great guy and deserves everything coming to him. So mucksticky.com, obviously, and youtube.com, Mucksticky TV. You can check him out there. And Mitch, thanks for the opportunity for letting me mention that.
Yeah, absolutely. Sounds like it's somebody I should have on as a co-host someday.
Oh my God, you'll love this, Mitch. You'll love this. He's been wearing the same, not the same pair, I apologize. He's been wearing pajama bottoms for 4,765 days, which is a new world record. and we're looking for the spot to hold the 5,000-day pajama party. So you'll have to let me know if Montreal would like to host that.
Yeah, I'll have to dig in and see, you know, and after the little heart surgery I had in March, I wore pajamas pretty much for a month. So
well, there you go. You'll love Sticky.
we'll get along just great. But there you have it, folks. Another great episode. George Thorogood, American classic. Mark Slaughter, great guy, great new album. Doug, thank you. And Heavy Montreal, again, 7th, 8th, and 9th of August, Parc Jean Drapeau. You must
I want to go.
see.
I want to go.
you got to come in here. I mean,
I know, man. Yep.
If Faith No More is not your thing, you got Korn. If Korn is not your thing, it's Slipknot. If it's not that, it's Marky Ramone. If it's not, it's Doc. And how can you go wrong?
I just wish you'd say, and Limp Bizkit. Oh my God, I love that.
Yeah, you know what? I think the year they book Limp Bizkit might be the year I stopped talking about the festival.
We'll agree to not agree.
But I'll say one thing. At the Rainbow Room in L.A., oh God, probably 10 years ago, I walk in and the first person standing right in front of me is Fred Durst.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, it's Fred Durst, And we got to talk, nothing big. I mean, it wasn't, we weren't, comparing notes on how to cure cancer or anything, but it was just, hey, and he was exceptionally nice. So I can't complain.
He's a great guy. Yeah, him and I had a falling out. I was supposed to manage him, and we had a falling out. Long story. We'll save that one for our next interview.
Yeah, but he was nice.
I love Fred. And to be honest with you, the Woodstock performance absolutely blew me away.
Yeah, that one had, what was that? With a big riot or something? They got people burning up.
Yeah, and we had Blind Melon on that, and they killed it. I mean, I thought they did a phenomenal job. So
yeah, and the guy who replaced Shannon Hoon and Blind Melon, right?
Yeah, I'm going to see him tonight. Yeah, fantastic kid, Travis Warren, really good guy, and they want me to work with him, and I probably will. But really good group out of San Luis Obispo.
Are they doing hard rock metal, or are they doing more sort of Blind Melon stuff?
More Blind Melon stuff. The guitar player I love. It's kind of an edge, kind of up strumming, that ding ding. So yeah, I really dig it. I went to one of their rehearsals the other night, and they're killing it.
Oh, good for him, and hopefully they'll take you on as a manager, and we'll see. We'll get everybody to Heavy Montreal. It'll be a festival.
We'll see if I can't kill their career too.
No, you only bring positive to people's careers.
Thanks,
you go.
Mitch. Yes,
there
sir.
you go. And of course, I'll just finish one more time. Reflections in a Rearview Mirror. Mark Slaughter. I gotta plug Mark a lot. He's just a gem, a pearl, whatever you want to say. Just a great guy. Thank you, folks.
Peace.